So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to your LibGuides assets, and you're going to want to filter the URL. I use SUNY Connect to get me all the Aleph links. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click on Export All Records and save it as a CSV file. Once you have that saved, make sure that you do not edit the CSV file because we want to take in all the fields. So don't delete any columns. You can delete rows if you feel it's necessary, but I pretty much just keep the file intact. Then what you're going to do is, after you've installed the program, you're going to go to the directory where it was installed. If you haven't changed the defaults, it should be under Program Files / Penfield Library LibGuidesAlmaUpdater, and go ahead and launch the application. Once you're in the application, you have to set it up first, which is two parts. One, you're going to have to set up your SRU server. And if you go under File and just click How to Set Up SRU Server, it'll give you instructions on how to go into Alma and go into your settings and enable your SRU server. Once you have that complete and set up and tested, you're going to want to put in your settings. This is just initially so that you can use the program. You don't have to do this every time. So you're going to go ahead and go under File, click Alma Primo Settings, and then go ahead and just populate all these fields. The SRU server URL will be generated. So the first thing is you're going to want to put in your base URL and just paste that there. Then you're going to want to go ahead and put in your Primo library code, which basically it's usually the first part of your vid code, and then you're going to want to put in your vid code. And then you're going to want to put in your Aleph prefix. For Oswego, it's OSW. Each institution obviously will be different. Oops, OSW. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click on Save and Apply. And that should save your settings, and you'll see that it generates your SRU server. So to quickly just verify that the server is working, you're just going to go under File and click Verify Server. If you see that it says mandatory parameters version was not provided, that means it's working fine. If you get anything else, it'll just tell you that it didn't show up correctly, and then go back and check your settings, make sure that you went through these instructions and you set it up correctly. Okay, so once you have the system ready, you can go ahead and start ingesting data that we can parse. So the first thing you want to do is just click on step one, and you're going to just load the asset file. So you're going to go to the file that you downloaded as a CSV file. I'm going to pick a short one so that this demonstration goes quicker. It's going to have about like 15 records. So go ahead and just open it, and you'll notice that it opens 18 links are loaded. And then what you want to do is, based on the type of links, you're either going to be looking for a sysid or ISBN. I know that the files that I'm looking for are sysid because a lot of them had doc number in it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to parse sysids. So after I've loaded it and selected Alma sysid, I'm going to go to part 2, and then I'm just going to click on Parse and Match. And what that's going to do, it's going to go through each link, and it's going to check your SRU server. Depending on how many records you have, be patient. I've loaded a test file that had 1,100 links, and it took about 6 minutes to go through the whole process. Once it's completed, it'll flag the ones that it couldn't locate, and the ones that it does locate it are in white. And the reason why some of them are flagged could be multiple reasons. So if I go to the URL on the ones that are red, I notice like one of them is just a link to our Aleph server, it doesn't even have any kind of number. So of course that's going to fail because it can't even parse a number to try to match. Other ones that we've had that have failed, and actually if you scroll all the way over to look at missing doc IDs, a 0 means that it couldn't even find a doc ID. If it has anything else like text, that's because it was something completely different. For instance, this one here, the second one, just does a request that's a query. It doesn't even have any numbers in it, so that's why it's kind of useless, and it kind of skips over that. The ones that are valid are the ones that are going to say like doc number equals and has a number behind it, or request equals and has a number behind it. Other ones that failed that I added to this list were these that had the CCL term equals 020 equals. That's because those are ISB numbers. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm going to go back to step 1, reload the file, and select a different parser. So anyway, so after you've parsed all your links and done the matches, you're going to go to step 3, which is to just generate the asset CSV. And this is going to actually generate the CSV that you're going to download, or rather you're going to save, and then you're just going to upload it to SpringShare. And as you can see, it goes ahead and just generates them, which includes a column for the MMS ID and the new URL that points to your Primo and that specific document. So now this is ready to save, and then I'm going to go ahead and just click on Save CSV, and it'll give me a name, Primo. I'm going to call it Primo Links, and with the original name, and I'm going to save it. And then it'll just save it, and it'll be done. Then you can go to where it was saved. You can open it up in Excel, and what I'm going to do before I upload it to SpringShare is I'm just going to delete the MMS ID column, because I feel like they don't need that column. All they should be interested is the asset ID number, the name, the old URL, and the new URL. And you can actually, if you want, you can just go ahead and rename this old URL so that they know that that's the old one, and then that's the new one. So here's the old one, and here's the new one. And if I copy this entire link, that should link me to the document. So, and then if I just open up my browser and go ahead and paste it, it will take me to that document with Cambridge History of Latin American Literature, which is what I have here under the name. It might be a different name, or no, yeah, that's the name actually. So that's the correct asset, and that's the correct link. And I'll just save that. Actually, I'll just cancel that for now. So then you can go back to the program again, and remember originally I had those other links, and go back to step 1. And then what I'm going to do with step 1 is I'm going to reload the original file, which was the one that I called short links. And actually this one has those ISBN numbers. So this time around I'm going to parse for the ISBN, which I know are these last 4, even though they're duplicated, because for our LibGuides we didn't have any linking to this, but for demonstration purposes I just threw that in there. So after I load it, I'm going to go back to step 2, and I'm just going to have it parse again, and it'll go through, and you'll notice now that the ones on the top couldn't find anything because obviously I didn't choose the Aleph sysid. I want the ISBN, and it went ahead and it found it. So it used the SRU server and found it. The other thing I forgot to mention, that this kind of gives like a little report on how many document IDs it didn't find and how many it found. And the other kind of nice thing is you can export this table, which I think could be useful, because if you have, say, 100 links and say 20 of them failed, and they could be for all kinds of reasons, like it's pointing to just the Aleph server, or it's doing a word search or something like that, you might want to just save it. So I'll save it as flagged links, so that way I can look at it later and I can go to the asset number and say, oh, this asset in LibGuides is incorrect, and we're going to have to update it. For instance, this one points to Penfield's library catalog. Probably going to want to change that to point to Primo. Same thing wherever this one is. And then again, you just go to the third step, which is basically you're going to generate your asset CSV and then just save it, which I'm going to save it as, well, it already has a different name, but I'll just make sure I say something like number2 as the file name. And if you have multiple files, like, you know, you've parsed first, you went and you parsed the file for Aleph sysids, and then the next one was ISBNs, you can just merge those two CSV files into one before you upload them to SpringShare, or ask them to upload it and make the corrections for you. So that's pretty much it as far as parsing a big file. It's really easy. It's just step 1, step 2, step 3. The other thing that I kind of threw in there is this other tab called the Quick URL Converter. And this is kind of nice if you want to you have like one link and you just want to quickly convert it. So I have this one link here that has a doc ID, and I know that doc ID is the Aleph sys ID, so I can just paste it here and hit generate, and it should quickly generate it for me. And let's see, I know that works. I think the reason why this doesn't work is because this isn't a valid sys ID. That's the other thing that I've discovered when I load some of these in the system, is it'll have a doc ID, but it'll fail. And the reason why it failed is because the original doc ID might have not been ported over to Primo. So some things could have been in Aleph that never got ported over, and they don't actually exist anymore, and that's why that ends up failing for me. And as you can see, this one is an actual valid doc number, so it did generate the URL for me. And then once it generates, it just puts it here, and then you click copy, and you can copy that link and quickly put it wherever you need it. And you can quickly test it too. So I could just click on this test, and it'll actually just quickly load that URL which I copied there. And that's basically it. So it's just, like I said, it's pretty much 3 steps: load it, parse it, generate it, save it, and that's it.